So, in being a person who is not prioritizing the role that supports your highest goal and ambition, can you still put lots of energy in that thing and not be successful? Meaning that my friend who was doing jiu-jitsu competitions that didn't have competitor as one of his top 3 roles, do you think he was training hard? Yes. Was he training correctly? Yes. Was he doing everything he could? Absolutely. But where the rubber hits the road is if he had to cut out in order to be a husband and he had to choose being a husband over competition training, then that competition training left. If he had a test to study for, do you think he would go to competition training and get exhausted, or would he study for his exams? He'd study for his exams. If his brother called and needed to talk because he's 15, 16 years old at that time and loved his big brother, would he step out of training to talk to his brother? Absolutely. Now, you wouldn't think that that would have a large effect in the long run, but it does something to you. Not that it's a bad thing because he was still living up to his priorities, but he was putting in 80% of the work that he needed in order to become truly excellent in jiu-jitsu, but not getting any results because the guys he was meeting in competition were probably putting 82% or 88%, and some of them were putting in 95%, 100%, right? Because maybe they only have one thing in their whole life, which is jiu-jitsu. And that's why commonly athletes from very poor neighborhoods or very poor cultures do very well in fight sports is because they have one way out. They have boxing, they have wrestling, right? Or they have basketball. They only have one way out, which means what is their role? So they put all of their eggs in one basket, of course, and really, really push. Now, I feel sorry for them if that glove doesn't fit their hand, but that's the way it is. So, what I want you guys to do now, after the podcast is over, the webinar, sorry, I'd like you to sit down and I would like you to really write through what you feel that your roles, your 3 major roles are in your life. What are you actually prioritizing? So if I tell you that I want to be a jiu-jitsu fighter, but I'm playing video games 7 hours a day and I'm not sleeping enough and I'm not eating, am I actually doing the job of being an athlete or not? That's a good question, right? So if I say that, oh, I want to be an excellent husband, but how many times today did you actually meet your wife's eyes? How many times did you tell her that you appreciate the things she does? How many times were you grateful for what she is and how she is? Look at the roles that you're playing and start to feel whether or not you're filling those up as best as you can. Now, there's an old story from America, and we have a saying, fill up your present place. And I usually use Maudit for this example because she does this very much. I asked her, so what do you want to what's your major thing? And she said, well, I have many major things, but one of them is to be a worker. I really want to be a worker. And I said, well, what kind of worker? Do you want to run a business? Do you know how do you want to do things? What do you mean worker? And she says, I don't know. I can work anywhere, but I just want to make sure I'm the best possible worker. And to be quite honest, she's the only person that's ever worked with me that I've seen constant and never ending improvement, even after third and fourth year. If you run a business or you work with other people, generally people learn the job after 6 months and maybe they get a little better after a year, but after that they stagnate. And why is that? Because the hand fits the glove enough. But she's constantly finding ways to expand the glove. And interestingly enough, the next glove shows up for her. The next opportunity comes. And this thought came originally from a black man in the South that had been arrested. And they were basically pounding rocks to make gravel. And the sheriff saw that this guy would break more rock and make more gravel than all the other prisoners. So over time, he realized that this was a quality worker. And then he asked the guy, "Hey, do you want to be the foreman of this gang?" And he said, "Absolutely, I can be the foreman." And then his gang was the most efficient gang. So he filled up his spot there, right? So in the next period, when he was leaving the prison because he had served his sentence, he knew all of the prison guards, he knew all of the other prisoners, and everybody respected him, and he got things done. The sheriff owned a grocery store, and he asked him, "Would you like to come work for me in my grocery store?" And that's not very often that a sheriff or a prison um, deputy will ask a prisoner to work for him. But he showed up, and he did a great job there too. He really filled up his present place. He was there, and he did the little extra, and he did what he could to make sure that everything worked well. And as the old man was who ran the grocery store was starting to get a little older, he asked, "Would you like to be the boss? Would you like to run the store for me?" Which the guy said, "Yes, I would like to run it for you." So he was the first African American daily leader for a grocery store in the South. And after the old man died, the widow sold it to him. And in the next 10 years, he ended up having over 100 stores. He was the first African American in the South to be a multi-millionaire. Now, do you think that when he was swinging the sledgehammer in the beginning that he thought that he was going to be able to do that? That was in his mind? Absolutely not. And that's what I'm saying, my friends. If you don't have a very concrete idea of what your role is going to be, or what you really want, or something that's going to fulfill your highest goals and ambitions, then fill up your present place where you are. Be spectacular at whatever you're doing. And the next love will show up for you. That's happened in my own life, and I get to watch it all the time in Modest's life. And it's one of those great principles to live by. So if you don't necessarily have a good overview of what your highest goals and ambitions are, and I are going to be putting on a workshop around Easter to help you find out what those are. And we're going to be doing basically a relatively exclusive workshop to help you dissect the things that you want from the inside and make them happen on the outside. It's going to be a fantastic thing. I can't wait for that.